Welcome to Mormon Impossible, True Mormon Mission Chronicles, a podcast where we explore what Mormon missions are really like.
That's right. I am your host, Tabby, and
I'm Lauren.
Hi, Lauren. We're so excited that you're joining with us today. Yesterday or last week, we shared a little bit of my mission and some of the major things that happened. And today, I am super excited because Lauren here, oh, she's on this side, I think. Lauren is going to share her mission with us. And if you thought mine was like crazy, just buckle up and get ready because Lauren's mission is epic, I believe. We talked last week about how sisters are more of a choice to go on missions. It's more of do I want to go? Am I not married? Kind of a thing. So, how did you feel? How did you decide to serve a mission?
Yeah, I decided at a very young age that I wanted to serve a mission. It was
Mm.
something that just seemed like so logical. It made so much sense because I was really, really involved in Mormonism. Now I can recognize that I was a bit of a fanatic.
Yeah.
Because I had undiagnosed anxiety and I was using
Mm.
um, my religion as kind of a coping mechanism for that. So I would
Yeah.
like read the scriptures every day. I think starting at 8 years old, I read the Book of Mormon every
Wow.
single day until I decided to leave the church. So
So do you
that's a
feel
long time.
that, yeah, do you feel that primary really influenced you, or was it like your family life?
I
Um,
think it was family life. Honestly, I there was a lot of conflict in my home, some
okay.
emotional abuse,
Oh
and
no, I'm so sorry.
that's
That
okay
sucks.
because I have a great relationship with my family now.
Oh, good.
So it's fine now, but at the time I definitely had anxiety and didn't know how to cope, and so I used the church to cope, and that meant I was really a fanatic. I was obsessive about following rules. I
Oh,
was but it also did bring me a lot of joy and comfort. It was a
mhm.
coping mechanism that worked for me when I
Okay.
would, feel anxious and feel overwhelmed. Church did bring me comfort and religion did bring me comfort. And so that's why I wanted to serve a mission because I felt like I had so much I needed that that I owed God. I needed to give him back because he helped
Yeah.
me every day so much with my anxiety, which is how I saw it, that I needed to
Yeah.
share the good news, share
Yeah.
the message with
So
other people.
yeah. So you read the scriptures every day. I'm sure you
Mhm.
prayed all the time,
Yeah.
right? Did you guys do family home evening?
We did family home evening and family scripture study,
Okay.
and
And so
I
for
did
those
early
who
morning
don't know,
seminary.
yeah, for those who don't know, family home evening is a one night out of the week. It's on Monday nights. The church designates they don't have any other meetings, and they say, okay,
Mhm.
families get together with your core family, and then obviously if you're in college, it'd be like your college buddies, or like I think
Mhm.
they have like groups, right, that are assigned in
Yeah,
college to
yeah.
be like the family home evening group. And basically, what you'll do is you'll get together and you'll have a lesson at home on church gospel topics, or like lessons on being kind. I mean, if you're like super little kid, I mean, there's not a lot of stuff that will hold your attention as much, but
Yeah.
usually like a game, a treat. My family actually didn't really do. I remember one thing, and that's it.
Oh,
One time we
really?
did it. So that's why I'm curious, because I think
Yeah,
family
we
home
did do
evening
it.
can be, maybe influential for a
Yeah,
child.
no, for sure. I think because my parents took the gospel and being religious so seriously, it definitely influenced how seriously I took it, and
Yeah.
it was the most important thing in my life from the time I was probably 8 until 25.
So, for also those that don't know, in the Mormon Church, we baptize our children at age 8. Do you want to
Mhm.
explain that? Like, do you think being baptized a member of the church made it so that you were even more into the church because you had now become a member, officially a member of the church?
Yeah, no, for sure. I feel like now looking back on it, I realize that like that's way too young to make such an
Mm,
important decision. I didn't know so much stuff about the religion and I was only 8 and I there's a lot of social pressure, of course, but ultimately I did want to get baptized when I was 8.
right.
It wasn't like my parents made me. I wanted to, but
Yeah.
yeah, I think that's too young to have someone
I
commit.
agree because the church thinks that, Catholics baptize their children when they're infants. And I
Mhm.
remember being taught this as a child that, the Mormon church doesn't believe that a child should be baptized. And so they wait till the accountability age of 8.
Yeah.
And that's okay. And that God's going to like all of a sudden be like, okay, well, between right and wrong, and like life's going to be good, you're going to make bad choices, and then you're going to sin, you're going to have to repent, right? But baptism is all about being washed clean of your sins. And I'm like, what does an 8-year-old have that needs to be washed clean, like
Yeah.
honestly? So I
Yeah.
always have found that interesting. Okay, so let's get into your mission. When and where did you serve?
So I served in Santiago, Chile,
Nice.
in the East Mission, and I
Okay.
served from 2014 to 2016.
Nice. Yeah, so you were like 12 years after I did.
Yeah, I just
Yeah.
barely went.
Or let's see,
Mhm.
2014 you said? 20,
Yeah, 2014.
2014 to 2016. Yeah, so you're like 10 years actually. That's awesome. So like I'm super interested to know if like your mission rules were different than mine, as we continue to go through all these podcasts. So tell us about like how old were you when you left? Were you
I had turned 19 just a few weeks before I went into the MTC.
okay? So
Yeah.
you were then at the age where you could be 19 to serve as a
Yeah.
sister.
Yeah, and I was so excited when they made that change because
How many
as
years before had they made that change?
just like a year or so
Wow.
before I turned 19, they made that change, and I was so thrilled because I'd been wanting to serve a mission my whole life, but as I got older, I realized that means I can't get married till I'm like 20 sorry, you served at 21, so I couldn't get
Yeah,
married until I was 22 or
2030.
23, and I was
Yeah.
like, "That's way too old," and
Which is
I ended
so
up getting
funny.
married at 22, so not too old. Um, but yeah, and so I was really excited that they changed it so that I could go before I went to university and before I got married.
Nice. That's cool. And I believe there probably were a lot more women that decided to serve because of the age change. Do you want to
Yeah.
talk about that? Like, was your mission completely impacted? Do you know
Oh,
how
yeah.
many sisters in your mission served at one time?
I wouldn't I don't know the exact number, but I
Like
it
in
was
about.
almost half. It was
Wow.
it
That's
was,
amazing.
I think, just over 100 elders and just under 100 sisters in my mission.
Wow. So when I served, there was like 20 sisters at one time.
Wow.
And we thought that was a lot. Holy
Yeah.
cow, almost 100.
Yeah, so
That's
I
amazing.
couldn't even know I didn't know all of the sisters in my mission. I only knew the ones I happened to be close to.
Yeah. So then you went to Santiago, Chile.
Mhm.
How was your MTC? We talked about this in the last one where
Yeah.
MTC is a mission training center, and it's basically how missionaries learn how to become a missionary. And then when you go foreign, you learn the language. So I assume you spoke Spanish or learned
Yes.
Spanish.
Yeah, I spoke Spanish, not before going on my mission. I had taken 4
Mm.
years of French, so I'd been hoping to get called somewhere French
I
speaking.
did the same thing. I wanted to go to Paris so bad, or French,
Yeah.
anything. Yeah.
Um,
Interesting.
and so I went Spanish speaking, and my MTC experience was pretty good. Like, I
Which one did you
I
go to?
I went to the one in Chile. I believe it's closed now. They
Oh,
opened it because so many new sisters were coming, so they had so many more missionaries than normal because it was
wow.
still within like a year or so of the age change.
Yeah.
So they opened it up for a year before I got there until a few years after I left, and then it closed again.
That's really interesting. See, I didn't even know that they had an MTC there.
Yeah, it was
So, wow.
on we lived in since there's just I guess now there's two, but there was just one temple in Chile.
Mm.
And so there was housing out back of the temple so that
Oh, yeah.
families who travel to go to the temple can have
Mhm.
somewhere free to stay. And so we just stayed in that building and then would go to like the church offices for our classes. So because there wasn't like an actual building meant
Building.
for the
Yeah.
MTC, that meant we got to go outside a lot because we were always on
Oh,
the temple
nice.
grounds passing back and forth. So that was really good for my mental health to be outside in nature, see flowers, see people passing. And so I loved being in MTC.
That's awesome. So what was the food like? Like, so you didn't have a cafeteria, I assume.
We
So
did have a
oh, you
cafeteria
did. Okay.
actually, yeah, because, I guess there's a cafeteria in that building for people who stay, and
Okay.
so we did have a cafeteria. The food was pretty good. It was a little bit different than I was used to, but I wasn't ever a picky eater, and so I
That makes
liked
it
the food.
easy.
And yeah, we had enough food, so that was good. That was the only time in my mission I ever had enough food.
Yeah, we'll definitely go into that later on because I think that's an episode in on just by itself.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
So, okay. So then, how many companions did you have at the NTC?
I, was in a trio the whole time, so I had 2
Oh,
companions for 6 weeks.
okay. And you only did 6 weeks.
Yeah, I did 6 weeks. So just
So
1 transfer.
you tried to learn Spanish in 6 weeks.
Yeah, I did not succeed.
Okay.
I was pretty bad, like, probably one of the worst missionaries in, like, skill of speaking Spanish by the time we left.
Mm,
Like, my leaders, my teachers were, like, worried for me, and I was like, "Ugh." But that gave me the motivation to study so hard,
mm,
and I ended up speaking Spanish really, really well,
that's
on my
awesome.
mission, being practically fluent by probably halfway because I get obsessive, and so I obsessed about studying. I had flashcards
Mm,
that as we would walk in between appointments, I'd be studying. I would study when I got
yeah.
home. Like, so I got really good at Spanish because I was so bad at first.
At the NTC. Well,
Mhm.
congratulations. That's definitely a feat for sure. Well, let's move on. So 6 weeks at the MTC, you leave the MTC to go to the field.
Mhm.
Um, how was your trainer?
So, my trainer was fine. I was a little disappointed in her, but
Mm,
I was so happy when I finally left the MTC and I was in the mission field and I was doing the work. I was probably the happiest I had ever been,
that's
only
great.
because I had been dreaming of serving a mission my entire life. And
Mhm.
especially as I got into my teenage years, I started experiencing a lot of like cognitive dissonance in the church and heard
Mm,
about what felt sexist to me. It felt like I wasn't treated equally being a woman,
mhm.
and that really rubbed me the wrong way. And then I also had lots of problems with um the doctrine in the church about LGBTQ people, because my
Mm,
brother came out to me as gay, and I didn't realize at the time, but I was a repressed lesbian. I was convincing myself I was
yeah.
straight, but I was
And
not.
you never gave yourself even the opportunity to, even by chance, have just the tiniest thought that that was a possibility, right?
Yeah. Well, I had the thought come in a handful of times.
Oh,
It came in
interesting.
when I was 12. I was like, "Oh, no, I might be gay." But then I
Really? Okay,
convinced
wait,
myself.
wait. Let's stop right there. Okay. You're 12 years old and you have this like possible thought. Um, this is a lot of people that are outside of the church will not know this, but the Mormon church are very, very against LGBTQ
Mhm,
people. They, came out with a policy in 2015 that was absolutely horrible, which I
mhm.
think we should get into that as a separate episode
Yeah,
because
that happened
that,
while I was on my mission, and it
no,
affected me deeply.
oh my goodness, that's
Yeah.
awful. Sorry, my alarm just went off. I apologize. So, wow, you're 12 years old and you have this thought. Like, what was your reaction, your gut reaction when you had this thought?
Well, at that point, I believed what I had been taught about being gay. I believed that it was sinful
Mhm.
And so as I had this moment of realizing I'm not having the feelings for men or for boys that my friends are
Mhm.
having, and I feel very drawn to dress and look more masculine, and I was like, not that that is what makes you gay,
Yeah,
but I
yeah,
was
yeah.
having these
But
experiences
different than your
that was
friends.
different from my friends, and
Mhm.
I had the thought, "What if I'm gay?" And I immediately shut myself down, and I'm like, "No,
Mm.
that's sinful, and I am righteous." I knew that it couldn't be true because I'm like, "I read my scriptures every day, I pray, I'm righteous, I'm not gay." And so
Yeah.
I pushed that down until I was 16, and my brother came out to me as gay, and it
Wow.
it was
How old is he compared to you?
he is 4 years older than me, so he
Okay.
was 19 or 20,
Wow.
and
Yeah.
he came out to me as gay, and
Was he
I
nervous?
yeah, he was so nervous that he didn't actually tell me in person. He wrote a letter and then gave it to me and said, "Will you
Aw.
go read this? And I'll be in I'll be in my room when you're done. Like, come talk to me when you're done."
Oh, that's so
And
sweet. Like he
yeah,
trusted you with that information because, like we said, the Mormon Church are so against being gay. They think it's a choice, that it is not something that you're born with and it's not inherited within you, that it is just a complete choice that someone makes because they want to sin, right?
yeah,
And so to even think that you are possibly within this spectrum, that that thought probably scared you, right? And then when your
yeah.
brother, when you read his letter, like what were the emotions? Like what did he put in the letter?
Um, so well, first I wanna say that, um, just a quick little correction is they used to teach it was a choice, sorry, that
Oh,
being gay
okay.
was a choice, but they recently, I think within the last 10 years, updated their official position that it's not a
Good.
choice, but
Okay.
acting on it is a sin.
Okay. I apologize. I was incorrect.
No, no,
Please
you're totally
always
good.
correct me on anything. I am not the smartest person in the world. So, yeah. How did that, when your brother wrote you his letter,
Yeah,
what was that like?
I was extremely emotional. I I
I can
sobbed the
imagine.
entire time that I read it. And it was a very sweet letter. He kind of explained his journey of how he figured out. He explained how he, really couldn't admit it to himself because he thought it was a choice, but then found some article that the church had printed about it not being a choice. I think it's called God Loveth His Children.
Interesting.
Um,
I will need to
and
read that.
and so he read that, and that's what gave him the courage to come out, I think. It was a long time
Wow.
ago. I'm trying to
Right.
remember. Some
Yeah.
along those lines, something like that. So, he came out to me, he shared his testimony that God still loved him and all of that, and it was a very sweet letter, but I just was so scared for him. I was so scared that he was gonna have a life of loneliness and suffering. I was scared that, he would have to live his entire life single and celibate and not be able to find love. Because
Yeah.
as a gay person in the church, you have 2 options: marry
Right.
the opposite sex anyway and hope that it works, which is what I did, or remain celibate for the rest of your life, or get excommunicated. I guess you do have a 3rd choice.
Yeah, but if you want to stay in the church, you only
Yeah,
have two options.
2 options.
So that's so tough. So I can understand why you would feel unbelievably concerned about your
Yeah.
brother.
Yeah, I was really, really concerned for his soul and
Yeah.
so sad for the anticipated suffering that he was gonna have to go through, and I had another little glimmer a few weeks after that of being like, "Why is this making me so emotional?
Mm,
Is it because I'm gay?" And then I was like, "No, it couldn't be."
interesting. Yeah. So this just fascinates me. It really does because to just have like I didn't know anyone growing up that was gay. And honestly, my I don't know if I want to share this, is very homophobic. And
Mm,
so I learned to be scared of the word gay and anybody that was
yeah,
associated to that. And like I grew up in the 90s when everybody would, joke around and say, "Oh, you're so gay," which
mhm,
horrifies me now. I'm like,
yeah,
I cannot believe that I would go around saying that, or my friends would. And
mhm,
I lived in Utah, grew up in Utah, and so we were just these, Molly Mormon girls, and we're using the word incorrectly, and I
Yeah.
can't even imagine how offensive that was. So, yeah, I definitely agree that we're taught to be homophobic, and we're
Yeah.
taught that, there's just certain things that you shouldn't ever do, and it's a choice, right? Or at
Yeah.
least that's how I was. I was taught that it was a choice.
Yeah,
In
I mean,
super
the
class,
overwhelming majority of the time, like, Mormonism, it's, like, taught it was a choice up until, like, recently, so it's, like, a little bit of teaching it isn't a choice, but
yeah,
the
but like if
majority of Mormonism, the history of Mormonism taught that it was a choice.
yeah, and I feel like the church, when they've improved on their teachings, they're like
For sure.
super far behind everybody else, right?
Yeah.
So this is probably why I didn't even realize that. So thank you for sharing that with us. Now, when your brother came out to you, did he come out to any other family members?
Yeah, he came out to my sister and then me,
And your
and
twin
then my
sister, or do you have
yeah,
another sister?
my twin sister,
Okay.
and then to my mom,
Okay.
and I
How did
think
your mom
after
take it?
really, really well. My mom
Oh,
is
that's so
one of the
awesome.
most loving people on earth. So she was very kind, very loving, but did kind of tell my brother like, I I can't commit to keeping this a secret from your father. Like
Oh, yeah,
you need
like you
to
better
I'll give
tell
you a
him.
couple weeks, but you need to tell him like soon, you know. So
Yeah. So if he was 19, 20, did he serve a mission himself
he
or
did
turn in
serve a mission,
papers?
but he didn't go until he was 21, I believe.
Interesting. So he knew he was
Yeah.
gay and he still served a mission.
Yep.
Wow, we need to have him on our podcast for
Oh
sure.
yeah, we definitely do. He has some
Wow,
really good stories.
nice. Okay, so let's go back to your trainer.
Yes.
So you said that she left you pretty quickly when you were
Yeah.
together, correct? So what
Yeah.
happened there?
So she finished her mission right as my 12 weeks of training was over. And so
So you're only
I
with her for one transfer,
two
correct?
transfers.
Oh, two
Yeah.
transfers. Sorry.
So now I mean, it might have changed, but when I went on my mission, your trainer was with you for 12 weeks to train you on everything. And
Interesting. Yeah, that was not a thing for me. So
yeah,
that's
so
interesting.
she left and then I immediately became a trainer. So I got a new missionary.
Wait, what?
And
So did you feel prepared at all for
nope.
this?
I still was really struggling even to speak Spanish. So I was like, how am I supposed to be a senior companion? Like I can
Wow.
barely speak.
Okay, so for those who don't know, right, who have never served a mission or have never been Mormon, like when you become a trainer, you are in charge of training that person to
Mhm.
explain all the rules of the mission as a whole, all the rules of everything that's in our little white Bible, which are the
Mhm.
standard missionary rules that every missionary has to follow. I mean, you're in charge of every little detail. You're the
Yeah.
one that makes the decisions like, oh, like we should call this person or let's go knock those doors. I mean,
Mhm.
there's a little bit of shared, but if you're a brand newbie, like that person is looking to you for everything because they're just like, I have no idea what I'm doing.
Yeah.
So, holy cow, to be like, have just finished your training to then become a trainer, how did that feel?
Well, it felt honestly, it was exciting for me. I
Okay.
was like, wow, the Lord really trusts me.
Mm,
And something that I forgot to mention, another reason I was so excited to go on a mission is because of that sexism that had rubbed me the wrong way. And as a
mm,
missionary, you're given priesthood authority. You're given
mhm.
authority to teach and
Yeah.
to represent Jesus Christ. And so I was like, woohoo, girl power. I get to have authority for the first time in my life. And so I was really, really happy becoming a trainer and having that responsibility. It's something that really was good for me. It was hard at first because the only reason there was a bit of friction between my daughter and my companion because she was 27 and I was 19. And so
Wow,
me
that's a
having
huge age difference.
yeah, so it was a little weird for me to be the one in charge, and I couldn't speak Spanish very well, and I was so much younger and inexperienced than her, and so that caused some friction in the beginning, but we were able to get past it. And because we worked really hard together, we just really, really grew to care for each other and love each other so much. She is, I still consider her my sister. Like I
Aw,
definitely really, really love her. And I was able to be with her for 5 months. So that was a
that's a
really
long time
fulfilling,
too.
it was definitely a hard
So
5 months, but it was really fulfilling.
it was worth it in
Yeah.
some ways. Yeah, that's awesome. So
Yeah.
then, she's 27. Like, was she Chilean? Was she
She was
American?
from Argentina.
Argentina. Okay,
Yeah.
that's awesome. So she knew the language, so you didn't have to work with
Yeah.
her on that. That
Yeah.
that at
And
least
she
was
she helped me a lot, actually.
that's
She
great.
would correct my pronunciation and correct my grammar for me, and that was so, so helpful because
Mhm.
my trainer didn't ever do that because I think she was afraid of, like, hurting my feelings. I'm like, "You're not gonna hurt my feelings, like,
Like, you
teach
need to
me."
teach me. Yeah.
Yeah, and she was not afraid of hurting my feelings, my new companion, and
Yeah,
so that was really, really helpful.
that's
Um,
good. Now, we talked about culture shock when we were talking about my intro. I'm curious because, as well, you came from America to Chile. Like, how was the culture for you?
you know, I did not experience culture shock going on my mission. I actually received it coming back. I fell in love with the culture of
Wow.
Chile so
Okay.
much. It just vibed with me better. It's a much more
Like laid back.
yeah, laid back. It's not that it's laid back because they're really, really hard workers,
Okay.
but they party into the night and then they wake up late, go for work to work for a few hours, come back home, eat lunch as a family, take a nap, then go back to work for the rest of the day and then get home and party. And it's just like that schedule just vibed with me as a
Nice.
person better, and people were a lot more open
Mm-hmm.
to discussing hard topics. And like I would just meet someone on the street and ask them how they were doing, and they'd just start to cry and tell me all of the problems in their life. And
Aw.
I just felt like, wow, like these people are so open and loving. And yeah, I loved Chile. I loved the
Yeah.
people. I loved being a missionary. The first part of my mission was just a dream come true and awesome.
Oh, yay, that's so good. So culture shock wasn't bad. Language, you got better and became
Yeah.
fluent, which is amazing.
Yeah.
Um, did you like the food? Like,
Yeah,
did you
I
guys
actually
do
I
did
did really
members
like the
feed you
food.
guys?
Members fed us lunches, and then we didn't eat dinner. So,
Okay.
we
Now, did
would
you go back and do a siesta like everybody else?
no, no. We were
Oh, okay.
expected to
So
work
you
through.
were
Mhm.
expected to work while everybody else was napping.
Yep.
So what did you guys end up doing?
Well, thankfully, we would just find people, who some people napped later, like at 3, some people napped at 1, so there was always someone we could talk
Okay,
to.
gotcha. I hear you. And you
Yeah.
probably did you do like street contacts a
That
lot?
was the majority of our mission. Everyone walks everywhere they go, and so the streets were always so full of people. I was always, always meeting people and talking to them on the street. That was how we found every single person we taught. I knocked doors 1 time in my entire mission.
Yeah, I love it. I feel like that's so much easier
Oh, yeah.
because I mean, I hated trying to force my way into
Yeah.
someone's house. I'm like,
Who
this
wants
is
to
their
bother people in their
personal
home? Like
right. Where if you're just walking down the street and like cross paths, it's like, hey, you want to talk, right?
yeah.
I feel like that was a lot easier than
Yeah, it was a lot easier for me.
okay, awesome. I love it. Let's go into so I'm so glad that you had a very good first half of your mission. Let's go into now the really hard stuff if you're okay with that.
Yeah, totally. I think
So,
it first started getting hard with my second companion. So we got along really well. We loved each other, but at the end of our time together, we started teaching a lesbian couple, and
oh,
it was very difficult, very emotional for me because I saw so clearly that they were a family, that
mm,
they loved each other, that
that's
they had
beautiful.
a beautiful life together. And it felt like if I teach them the gospel, I will be tearing apart a family because they cannot remain together and get baptized. so it felt wrong. It felt wrong to me to teach this couple and tear apart a loving family. And so I told my companion that. I said, I can't teach them. Like, this isn't right. They'll lose their family if they go through with this. And
What did your companion say?
she was sympathetic. She knew that my brother was gay, so she knew that I had emotions in it. And so she was
Yeah,
kind and loving, but she told them, or she told me ultimately, um, it was what's best for them, that
interesting.
learning the gospel would bring them blessings for the rest of their life and eternity,
Mm,
while this relationship might bring them happiness in this life, but it won't in the next. And so she she kind of talked and talked, and so I said, "Okay, fine, we'll keep teaching them." But I was a
mm.
senior companion, and I never
Right.
scheduled another appointment with them, and I friended them on Facebook when I got home, and that's the end of that. I was like, "Nope,
Oh.
I'm not doing it. I'm not teaching this couple."
That's interesting because as a missionary, right, you're trying to find anyone you can. And the ultimate goal is to baptize them into the church. And
Mhm.
I remember always being told that, find those families, find those families. And to have that family already created
Mhm.
and then to have you view that as like, no, they're already family. I think that's beautiful. I think it's awesome that you recognize that when I don't think a lot of people would have done the same thing.
Yeah,
So
I think that it's something that is really hard for people in the church to recognize, that, gay relationships are just as valid. They're just as much of a family as, a straight relationship. Um,
absolutely.
but I think that having a gay brother and having repressed lesbian feelings, really helped me have that empathy that I needed to recognize, like, no, that's not right.
Yeah. I think, yeah, that's just, it's hard to grow up learning one thing from somebody and then seeing it from like your family and other
Mhm.
people. So definitely interesting.
Yeah.
All right. So then your time with your second companion ended, and then what
Mhm.
happened? Did you go to a new area? Did she
Then,
leave?
yeah, I was transferred, and I was in my first area for 9 months, which is a really long
That
time
was half
to
of your
be.
mission.
Yeah, I was in my first area for half of my mission. It was really, really long time. And so
Now,
I was.
question really quick. Is your mission like geographically like pretty big?
No, it's pretty small.
Okay.
Yeah,
And you
I
guys
could.
had a ton of missionary, like 200 missionaries, right?
Yeah,
Give or
yeah.
take. So,
And the
wow.
areas were all really small. I could walk to the top and to the bottom of my area probably in, like, an hour in my first
Wow.
area.
That's crazy.
I could not do that in my second area.
Okay, so let's talk about your second area.
So my second area was in it's a gosh, what is it called in English? It's just like, it's not the city, it's like a zone within a
uh,
city. So Santiago is a city, but
sorry.
the zone was called Las Condes, which is the
Okay.
richest place in all of South America.
Wow. Really?
So it is,
Okay.
yeah, it is the
Interesting.
richest. I want to say city, but it's not a city.
Like
It's a.
a municipal, like
Yes,
a
something like that.
okay. I don't know. People help us out. If you can think of it, let us know.
Yeah, and so it was a really rich area, but fascinating enough, when at least what the part of Chile I saw, there was no middle class, and so our area had this huge, nice, rich neighborhood that included the mission president's home, and then it
Oh,
also had, like, the poor area, like, right across the street from the rich
so
area.
were both areas in your
Yeah.
mission, your that
Yeah.
particular
So
that's fantastic.
I
Okay.
spent most of my time in the poor area because nobody wanted to hear anything we had to say in the rich area.
Wow.
Um,
And
but
if the mission president is living in that, like
oh, it's
it's nice
nice.
because
Yeah.
they put up those mission presidents. We're
In
gonna talk about
mansions.
that.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
okay, so talk about this poorer area. I'm really curious about it.
Yeah, so we were right across the street. We were right smack dab in between the rich and the poor. So on one side we had, like, a drug infested den of sketchy people, and then on the other side it was mansions. And
Wow.
so the mansions had all these big fences and guards, so we couldn't really
Hmm.
go there because the guards would just ask us like, "Are you coming to see a specific person? No? Okay, get out." So
Or do you have an appointment, right?
yeah, exactly.
That's crazy. So then where did you guys live?
We lived in apartments just right smack dab in the middle,
Okay.
and, my new companion, things seemed fine
Mhm.
in the beginning. She seemed really nice, but unfortunately, she was struggling with a lot of mental
Mm.
illness that wasn't treated. She had, I
Wow.
think, a traumatic childhood. She just and a traumatic beginning of her mission. She had a companion that was also from the States who
Okay.
was just so nasty and abusive to her, and verbally abusive, I should say.
Yeah, that
And
breaks my heart.
so when she got to me, she had an opinion that Americans are bad.
Okay, so
And
she was an American.
no, she was from actually, I'm gonna keep it vague just in case anyone
Okay.
from my mission does know who I'm talking about.
Okay.
She was
That's
from
cool.
South America.
Gotcha.
And, yeah, I just felt now looking back, I feel really bad for her. I but I there was nothing really I could do, and she just was not great to
She
me.
just wasn't in her right mind to be on a mission, right?
Correct. She was absolutely should not have served a mission. She needed she needed medical help. She needed be like, I was literally afraid she was gonna strangle me in my sleep sometimes. Like, she was off her rocker a bit. So, that was really
That's
hard.
scary.
That
So,
was
like,
really hard for sure.
how long were you with her?
6 months.
So you almost finished your your mission with
Yeah.
her.
I had
Oh my
3
gosh.
areas. That's it.
That's incredible. Wow. So
Yeah.
okay, you were scared to be with her. Like
Yeah.
was there other things that she would do?
Um, she she just she just it's hard to explain.
Yeah, yeah.
She had
Sorry, I'm like
just,
asking
like,
all
this
these detailed
fake
questions.
I guess she would just lie through her teeth constantly about what she was
That's
thinking and
hard.
what she was feeling, and so
So she wasn't sharing her true emotions with
yeah,
you.
if
And so
if
you
I hurt
couldn't
her
help her.
feelings, she wouldn't tell me, and then I would find out that she told someone else this, that, and the other about me, and I would be like, "Please let me know what I did to hurt your feelings. I
Mhm.
want to make it up to you," you know,
Right.
like,
Yeah.
I had tried to have a lot of empathy for her because
Mhm.
I could clearly see she was
There was
struggling.
trust issues with
Yeah.
Americans. Yeah.
And but it never got better. It in fact, it got worse once we got an additional companion. So we were in a
What?
trio, and,
So one of the
my
transfers, they like just threw another
yeah,
sister
they
with you guys?
threw a visa waiting sister. So
Oh,
she was
interesting.
Chilean, waiting
Okay.
for her visa to go to America, and so she was
Mm.
brand new, so I was training her, and I felt like I was training my other companion because she wasn't trained. She never finished her training,
Oh
and
my gosh.
she because there were just so many new missionaries that she couldn't have her training finished, so she hadn't been fully trained. And so I felt like I was training 2 sisters at the same time, and then I became a sister training leader, which means I was responsible for training all of the sisters in my zone. And so it was
See,
a lot of pressure.
this is interesting. I want to go back to that in a minute, the sister in training, because that was a new thing that did not exist in my mission, and
Oh,
I
okay.
believe that that like came about around your time.
Yeah.
So sister in training was like a new kind of. So the elders had they had district leaders, and then they had
Mhm.
zone leaders, and then
Mhm.
they could be an assistant to the president. And there were only two of those guys, assistant
Yeah.
to the president. We call them APs.
Yeah.
So sisters didn't have any kind of like a leadership
Leadership?
calling
Hmm.
within missions.
Doesn't
Um,
surprise me.
yeah, so I'm super interested in that. But let's go back really quick. So you're training two sisters at the same time,
Yeah.
and are you the senior companion? I assume for.
Um, I think technically I wasn't. I had been out the same amount of time as
As
um,
the
as my first companion in
first,
that
yeah.
area. Yeah,
Okay.
and she had been in the area longer, so I think she was technically the senior companion, but I was basically the senior companion. I made all the decisions and did
Was that
everything.
hard on you? Like, could you tell that the third one that came and joined you guys, like that there was contention or like not necessarily contention, what's the correct word, but just like a little bit
Friction,
of
yeah.
butting of heads and stuff?
Yeah, she was the new companion. She was actually the one who brought it all to my attention because for the first 6 weeks I was actually with um we should just come up with a name. I'll just say hermana because that means
Okay.
sister in Spanish. So when I was with
Okay.
hermana, she was seemed like I could tell something was off. But she always when I asked her like, "Hey, are you okay?" she would always tell me yes. And
Mm.
so I didn't really know until my next companion came, which also I need a name for without saying her
What's
actual
daughter?
name. Hija.
Okay.
So
Oh.
when Hija came, she was Chilean, so she spoke Spanish. She got along great with Hermana, and they yeah, she told me. Hija
Mm.
told me that, like, by the way, every time you leave the room, this is what Hermana says. So maybe you should fix that. And I was like, oh, I had no idea she hated me. Like, let's fix that. So
Oh, that's hard to be put in the middle of that too.
yeah, I felt really bad for her. But
Yeah.
what do you do?
Jeez.
Like, I couldn't control
You
Hermana's
can't control other
actions.
people's
Yeah.
feelings, right? But as a missionary, you feel like you should, especially if like they're your companion, right? Like
Yeah.
you try to think, okay, what am I doing that's wrong, right?
Exactly, and that's always what I did. I always asked her, like, "I wanna be a better companion. Please tell me what I can do to be better, to help you more." And she would
Mm.
never give me a straight answer. There was one time I actually, like, did not let us leave the apartment. I said, "We
Mm.
are having a companionship inventory, and we're not leaving this house until you tell me what your problem is with me so we can fix it."
Yeah. Tell everyone what a missionary inventory is, or a
Yeah, so
companion inventory.
a
Sorry.
companionship inventory is something you do once a week on your day of planning. So I in my mission it was every Friday you would plan the next week, make sure you had everything full with appointments and things like that. And then you would also do a companionship inventory where you would just check in with your companion, see if there was any conflict that needed to be resolved or anything that was bothering them. Basically, just like checking in to make sure everything was okay. And so forced I forced her to have a companionship inventory. And I was like, no,
That must
we're
be
not
awkward.
leaving.
Yeah, that must have been a little awkward, right? Because your I'm gonna say daughter because I don't know how to say that in
Yeah.
Spanish. Um, like she was there, right?
Yeah.
But so she's hearing both sides, and I'm sure, like, who knew what was going on in her head,
I
right?
know. She ended up helping me a lot. What she
Oh,
ended up
good.
doing this is gonna make me sound so bad, but I'm gonna just share it. Because I was desperate. I was so desperate to get her to tell me the truth and fix this problem so we could be happy and go
And
out
have
and
the
serve God.
spirit with you,
Exactly.
right?
And
Because
so
if there's
I
contention, right, then
exactly,
spirit's
yeah.
not with you. Yeah. Sorry. Go ahead.
So I my daughter was just secretly telling me at this point everything that she was saying. And so I sat down to have this companionship inventory and I told her like I what's the word? I think I can discern what is bothering you.
Mm.
And so I because I didn't want to out hermana,
Yeah.
I didn't want to out my Chilean companion
Yeah.
that she had been telling me, what she was saying in confidence. And so I told her, the spirit has told me, I've discerned that this is what's bothering you. Let's talk about it. Let's work through this. And so she was like, whoa, she has the gift of discernment. Like, wow. And I was like, hopefully God understands and doesn't get mad at me.
Well, I mean, it's like sometimes lying is okay in
Yeah,
some certain
that's
situations.
I did it. I was like, "Whatever."
We've all
I was so
lied
desperate to fix
to
the
fix it.
problem.
Yeah. Oh man, that's crazy.
Yeah,
So,
but
okay, so what happened then? Did you guys get along towards the end of being together?
nope, she never would fix things with me. She never did. She
Were you guys a trio until like one transfer and then what happened?
we were a trio for I think 3 transfers, and then um my crazy companion actually got transferred out, but we got a new
Oh,
one, so I was still in a trio.
wow. And then did you have to train that fourth one?
No, thankfully
Ugh,
she had been
that's
out
so
for a long time. But it was her first time to be a sister training leader. So, I mean, I had to kind of teach her the ropes of how to be a sister training leader.
okay, let's
And
talk about that. Like what is the role of a sister training leader?
so basically we were on the same level. We were supposed to be on the same level as zone leaders. So we're supposed to
Mm,
be over an entire zone, but only over the sisters. The zone leaders were over the sisters and the brothers or elders,
interesting. Yeah.
but we were only over the sisters. So we would, at zone conferences, we would get up and speak and teach lessons and stuff. And then we would have exchanges, which with each of the companionships in our
Oh,
zone once a transfer. And
that's
so
cool because then you could help them with anything they needed.
exactly. So we could go to their areas and help them if they had any problem investigators that, they needed help teaching. We could go and help teach them, or sometimes
Nice.
we would bring them into our area because our area was supposed to be like the example of how missionary work is supposed to be. And so we would show them this is how we find people in our area, this is how we teach people.
Mhm.
And so there's definitely a lot of pressure, and felt like I was training everyone in the world.
Like
And
all the time.
yeah, and I also was getting pushback from the zone leaders because the zone
Mm.
leaders were saying that we weren't doing our duty as sister training leaders because we weren't calling sisters to repentance. And
What? Wait, okay. What is the repentance that needed to be called on? Because
there was nothing that needed to be called, but there were 2 sisters who were underperforming. Um, and so they invited us, the zone leaders invited us to chastise these sisters when we did exchanges with them. And I told them, no,
good for you.
there's
Yes.
nothing that they like. I am the one who went on exchanges with them. I saw the work they were doing, and I think they're doing a great job. I don't care that they haven't had a single baptism. I haven't had a single baptism.
Right.
What
Like
the
that's how you're judging a person on their mission, right? Is if they
Yeah.
have a baptism or not.
Yeah, it
That's
was
wrong in so many
ridiculous.
ways.
I was so
Wow.
mad.
I would be too.
Especially because one of the sisters was really struggling with depression. And I was like, if I
Oh,
told her that she needed to repent, it would break her. Like, I'm not gonna do that to her.
yeah.
And
That's
then
nuts.
but
Yeah.
then that sister who I defended over and over and over behind her back also had problems with me because I was too friendly with her companion, and because I had lived with her companion before,
So you knew her.
and
You already
so
had
I
a
knew
like a
her, and
relationship.
yeah, and this is so dumb. When we were did our exchanges, so I didn't go with my friend because I was like, "No, I think, like, people might look at that the wrong way if I only
Mm,
go with my friend. I'll go with this other sister and get to know her." And so
yeah.
I went with her, and I asked her, I think halfway through, like, "Is there anything you're concerned about? Anything you need help with?" And she said, "I'm really concerned about my companion. Like, she's really been
Mm,
struggling." And so I was like, "Okay, tell me more." Especially because she was my friend, so I deeply cared about her.
yeah.
Um and so I was like, "Tell me more, blah, blah, blah." And so we talked about her for a long time and kind of came up with the plan of what we could do to help her.
Mhm.
And then this companion or this sister calls me the next day to chew me out about how unprofessional I was and how I clearly favored her companion and how we were on exchanges and all I could do was talk about Sarah and well, she didn't call her Sarah. But we're friends now, so
We're just calling her Sarah.
and I was like, "Can I cuss? Is that okay?"
Yeah, I'm totally
Okay,
fine
I
with
was like, "Bitch, you brought this up! Like, what are you doing?" I
that.
was
Oh man.
but of course, you're told as a missionary, you're supposed to be humble, and so if
Mhm.
someone gives you a criticism, you have to accept it, and so I deeply apologized, I accepted it, and then I cried for a long time. I
Oh,
was like,
yeah.
"You had no idea that I was fighting for her and
Yeah.
that I loved her, I cared for her." And so I just felt like at that point, my whole mission was kind of crumbling. Like, I was facing
Oh.
opposition on every side, and then my brother, who is
Okay.
gay, wrote me a letter telling me he had been excommunicated, and
Whoa, that's
it was just
huge.
like everything crumbled. I stopped really being able to feel as much joy at that point
Well, you
because
probably couldn't focus either, right? You were like way worried about your brother.
yeah, I mean, it really I remember telling people, like, "I've lost my eternal family." Like, it's not gonna sorry, I'm gonna cry.
No, you're good.
It's not complete without him. Like,
Yeah.
I because in Mormonism, right, there's that belief
Mhm.
you only get to be with your family in the next life if you have gotten this special sacred Mormon ceremony. And
Mm.
so I had that ceremony with my family. We were all going to be together in the next life. And then when you get excommunicated, that ceremony gets stripped from you. And so according to the doctrine of the church that I loved and was serving, I could not be with my brother in the next life.
That's awful.
And it and so
And you're
I
like,
told
"Hello, he's still my brother. It doesn't matter
yeah.
anything that has to do with the church. He's still my brother." And I
It
can't even imagine how that ripped your heart apart.
yeah, and so I told people I lost my eternal family, but at least I have the opportunity to share the possibility of eternal families with other people, like and
Mm.
so I doubled down on being a good
Wow.
missionary because I was like, that is the most painful loss that I've ever experienced, losing
Mm.
my brother.
Yeah.
Not physically, but spiritually,
Yeah.
and to think, like, I don't want anyone else to go through that because I loved the Chilean people so much, and I was like, I
Mhm.
just want everyone to have their family in the next life,
Yeah.
and so I
Absolutely.
really started working harder and harder, and I think because I was in such an emotionally broken state, and I started doubling down and working even harder,
Mm.
that's when I started to get really sick.
All right. Yeah. Like, let's talk
Oh.
about this because a lot of stuff happened to you towards this end, and then currently you're still going through a lot of stuff. So let's talk about that if you're okay.
Yeah, totally. So,
And also thank you so much for sharing that about your brother. I can't imagine how that would feel.
yeah, I mean, it's definitely something that is still emotional to talk about sometimes, but for the most part, it's like I don't actually believe that that excommunication meant anything other than the meaning I infused in it. And so, since I no longer infuse meaning in a bunch of men telling my
Hmm.
brother, "You're no longer a member," like that's
Yeah.
it's not as painful anymore, but it just
But at the time,
remembering how I felt at the time definitely got me emotional.
absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, that's the thing, right? Is that when we're members of the church, we're told to have one emotion, and that is to be happy. And
Mhm.
so if we start feeling sad or mad or depressed, there's something wrong with us. We have to change
Mhm.
ourselves. We shouldn't be feeling that way. So we have to like stuff it down inside of ourselves. So
Yep.
I don't know if you felt the same way, but when I left the church, I was like, okay, I'm angry, I'm mad, I'm super sad and depressed, and I'm just going to let myself feel these feelings. Did you feel that way?
Yeah. The anger didn't hit for me at first.
Mm.
It was just immense sadness
Mm.
for a long
Yeah.
time, and then acceptance, and then the anger came after
Mhm.
I was like, "Okay, I accept this. I felt good with the sadness. Like I was like, I let go of that sadness, but then I started to get angry
Yeah.
looking back, only because, being a member of the church ultimately required a lot of very personal sacrifices,
Yeah.
and to recognize that those sacrifices were perhaps made in vain was really hard on me. And so
Yeah.
yeah, I definitely it took a while before the anger really set in.
Gotcha. Yeah, I think everybody does their own grief cycle,
Oh yeah,
but
for sure.
definitely we'll talk about this later on in another episode. But I want to talk now about you getting sick on your mission. So let's
Yeah.
go further into that. So not only are you, let's recap. You've been training people left and right.
Yeah. I'm
You
still in a trio.
you're still in a trio, which is really
Yeah.
hard. People don't understand because it's like two people will get along really well, and then there's the third wheel, and that
Mhm.
totally exists. It is very rare to have all three of you just be like, okay, we're all happy and everybody loves each other and we're all getting along. It's just, I don't know. I feel like trios are not really a
Yeah.
healthy thing.
No, yeah, it was hard for sure.
Yeah.
And to be in a trio in the MTC and then a trio and then she gets transferred out, but I'm still in a trio. It's like, "Oh my
Yeah.
gosh, I spent so much time in a trio on my mission."
They're just like, all right, what other people can we send to you and help you train, right? Because I
Yeah.
feel like I'm hearing that you just trained so many people.
Yeah,
Like,
and
that's tough too.
it was something that, like, my mission president was very I was really close with my mission president, and,
Now,
he actually
how many mission presidents did you have?
so I had one mission president, that lasted 6 or 5 months into my mission,
Okay.
and then I got a new mission president that was there the rest of the time.
Okay. And
And that
how was
second
your relationship with them?
Yeah, well, the first mission president, I adored him, I thought he was amazing, but, I wasn't very close with him, like, I was very intimidated by him, he was like a spiritual giant. Not that he was,
Ah.
like, mean or anything, but, like, he just knew everything. I was like, "Whoa," like,
But he was
um
also towards the end of his time, right?
yeah, he was
So
at the
he knew a
end.
lot.
He's a general authority right now, which I'm not surprised.
What? Okay.
He was general authority material for sure.
Okay. Spiritual giant, general authority. I get that.
Yeah,
Totally.
and then my next mission president, I actually had, like, a personal connection to him. He, before coming on a
Oh.
mission, was the 1st or 2nd counselor of the San Diego, California mission, and
Oh, okay.
my very, very, very close family friend was the mission president of that mission,
Oh,
and so
interesting.
when my new mission president, got his mission call and, that my old, family friend told him, "Oh my
Mhm.
gosh, like, you have one of the best missionaries ever in your mission," like, and told him all about me, and so when we
Awesome.
met for the first time, we had that instant connection. He told me, he's like, "I felt like I already know you, I already love you, like, blah, blah, blah," and that's why I think I was raised to a leadership position, and,
Because he's like,
he
well, you can handle it, so I'm going to
yeah.
give it to you.
He
Yeah.
put a lot of responsibility on me, and we were really close, but
But then what happened?
then I think that I try to be generous because I think that being a mission president is extremely hard, and I think
Mhm.
that the difficulty of it was starting to get to him,
Mhm.
but he basically just became neglectful. Like,
Uh-oh.
it's his job, right, to take care of all the missionaries, but that's an
Yeah.
impossible job. He had, like, 200 missionaries to take care of.
Yeah. That is a lot.
And so, I was someone that he felt like he could trust and that I could handle things,
Mm.
and so I think perhaps that's why he didn't take it seriously when I told him, "Hey, I'm really sick."
Mhm.
Um, and, you know, I was really sick, and you have to ask permission to stay home.
Mhm.
So I did, and I got permission. Um, and a week went by, and I still could not get out of bed. Like, I needed help just to get to the bathroom.
Oh
Like,
my
I could
gosh. So you were like
barely walk.
really sick.
Yeah, I couldn't
Like,
even make food for myself.
should
Like,
you have gone to the hospital?
I should have gone to the hospital, yes.
Did that thought even cross your mind?
Yeah, I thought that I needed to go, but I guess it was more of I thought if I were home, I would go to the hospital, but I'm a
Mm,
missionary, so God will heal me. And so
wow. Like,
I I didn't think that at first until I had been in bed like that for about a week, and I spoke to my mission president on the phone again, and I described to him in every detail I could because at that point I was desperate for help. I was like,
yeah.
"I think you should probably send me to a doctor." And so I gave him all the details of just how sick I was, and he offered to say a prayer for me over the phone, and that was
Like
it.
that's it. He didn't say, okay, Sister Lauren, you definitely should go to the hospital. Your companion will take you right now. Or
Yeah, no.
even like, you sound like you're sick. Let me send a member to you to pick you up and take you to the
Yeah.
hospital. Or
Yeah, no.
not even just a hospital, but like to go see a doctor.
Yeah,
And he's an
exactly.
American, correct?
Yeah, he was American.
Oh my gosh, this is horrible.
And he was in
So,
my mission, like, or in my area. He could have
oh,
at least driven to me and, like, given me a blessing.
oh,
He just
so
gave me a prayer over the phone.
So he didn't even come to be like, I'm going to give you a healing blessing from the priesthood because I hold the priesthood and this is going to help heal you faster. He's just like,
Yeah.
okay, I'm going to pray for you over the telephone.
Yep.
Oh my gosh, this is ridiculous.
Yeah, and he encouraged me to get back to work as soon as I could. And so,
Did he ever check on you again after this?
he didn't, but um so I think I went back to work the very next day. I was like, well, mission president told me to get back to work, but I was still so sick that I made it to like one appointment and then came back home.
Oh my
Um,
gosh. What about the mission president's wife? Because in my mission, she was kind of like the medical person. So we would kind of talk to her and then get to the president.
yeah,
So
we
was
had
her role
someone.
there?
So we didn't talk to the mission president's wife. We would
Okay.
talk to another missionary who was designated the mission nurse. She was
Interesting.
she was just another missionary. She wasn't a nurse. I think she had been like accepted to nursing school, but she hadn't gone through nursing school. So it's like she
What?
wasn't trained, but
Okay.
she also had her own area and had normal work, but she also had to take phone calls.
What?
Um
So you're
and
telling
basically
me the church did not send like a professional
no.
healer to a mission. They just assigned some rando person who
Yep.
was a female because, right, like nurses are females.
Yep.
And she had been accepted to medical school. So obviously she knew everything in the books, right? I mean, that obviously makes her.
And she was given a smartphone. So basically, when I
Oh, wow.
interacted with her, if someone would call her, she would just Google what do you do and tell them. That's all she did because we weren't allowed to have the internet. We didn't
Right?
have
Yeah.
smartphones. We had little flip phones.
Oh my
And
gosh.
so that was her job. And so she was overworked. I could tell by the end of her mission she was struggling. Like it was way
Oh,
too much work to
yeah.
put on her. And that's not uncommon. Like that's what the same thing happened in my sister's mission. She served at the same time as me. They
Okay.
also had a mission nurse assigned, just a random missionary was assigned mission nurse. And I'm sure
Oh
we'll
my
have my sister on
gosh.
and she can tell us about the
Yes.
literal psychotic break that the mission nurse had because of all the stress from the mission.
Wow.
So,
I mean, this sounds awful, right?
yeah.
I mean, so you have 200 missionaries, right? And they're between the ages of 18 and like 27 was your
Mhm.
one. But usually there's not even a 27-year-old,
Yeah.
right?
Normally 25 is the oldest.
Yeah. So you have all these missionaries, and there's people getting sick left and right, and they have to call this nurse to get diagnosed via Google
Yep.
as to what they should do. And, don't take a sick day if you don't have to, just keep working.
Yeah.
So you're totally sick. You go work for like one appointment, you come back. What
Mhm.
happens?
Then the next day was Sunday and I didn't make it to church, and so at that
Mm,
point, the an elder the senior couple actually lived in my ward. So
Oh,
he came
okay.
over and he gave me a blessing. Um, and that's honestly, as a no longer believer, one
Mhm.
of the experiences that I still feel like I can't quite explain.
Mm.
Like, I got a blessing and I I felt physical sensations from his hands, like, wash over my body, and I
Mm.
started to feel a little bit better. Obviously, it didn't last, but I did
Mm.
start to feel better, and I was able to start working again, um, albeit
Interesting. Yeah.
much slower than before. I was a
Yeah.
fast walker, and after that point forward, I physically could not walk quickly. Like, my legs would not move that fast. I would drag my feet. I went through so many pairs of shoes in that last little bit of my mission because I couldn't even, like, lift my foot up. I would
Oh
just
my
drag my feet.
gosh. See,
And my companion
you should have been sent home,
Yeah, I
right?
should have been sent home, absolutely.
And the mission president never asked you again about it?
He didn't ask me again, but a few weeks after the phone call, there was a zone conference, and so I went up to him afterwards, and I was like, "I'm still really sick, like, I still am struggling to walk. Have to sit, uh, in a chair with my head on the counter while I make scrambled eggs because that is how weak I am in the morning, like, something is wrong with me." And he told me,
Oh my
"I'll
gosh.
pray for you tonight," and
That's
that was
it.
it.
See, he should have been like, "Yeah, okay, let's send you to the doctor. In fact, I will take you because I'm responsible for you."
Yeah,
Oh my
exactly.
gosh. That amount of neglect is unacceptable.
Yeah,
Just
I agree.
unacceptable. Oh,
And I have to just assume because I truly believe he is a good person who is
mhm.
trying his best, and so I just have to imagine he was under so much stress
He didn't
that he
realize.
just couldn't help other people. I think that he
Wow.
was like, "Okay, I'll pray for you. That's what I'll do and move on," like it's just it must have been so hard on
Yeah.
him.
Oh,
So, I try to have empathy for him even though I could get mad at him, but ultimately, it's not really his fault. He was indoctrinated as well.
absolutely. Yeah. I mean, we're taught to do certain things and how to handle stuff, right?
Mhm.
And he was kind of a newer mission president. And I can only imagine that they don't have much training either, like how to deal with certain situations.
Yeah, and they're
But
instructed to go to the doctor as a last resort in foreign missions.
see, how crazy is that, right?
Yeah.
Like,
Missionaries in the States can go to the doctor whenever they need. Missionaries outside of the States, last resort.
and that's so crazy. So, like I said last week, that I had free hospitals, right? So
Mhm.
anybody can go. It doesn't even matter. All you have to do is just show up. You don't have to have
Yeah.
insurance or anything. You don't
Yeah.
even have to have ID. I believe that they'll just
Wow.
like take you. I can't remember. I can't be honest on that one. I don't remember. But like, isn't that weird that there is so much more opportunity for a foreigner to go in certain situations? And
Yeah.
yet you have to ask permission. And I'm
Mhm.
sure today that you're like, I wish I would have just gone.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, well, they had my insurance card too, so it was something that I felt like
And did
I
you
had
guys
to get
have
permission
free
because I need
hospitals?
No, we didn't.
Oh, dang it. Yeah.
And so because I didn't know how I would pay for it, because it's not like I had a lot of money, and I
Yeah.
didn't have my insurance card, and so I just kind of felt like I can only go if I'm given permission, and
Yeah.
now, of course, I wish I would have just gone home, but I also couldn't go because I didn't have my passport. They had my passport.
Right. Yeah, we talked about that last week a little bit. That's
Yeah.
nuts, right? Like,
Yeah.
we're adults. Why can we not make these adult decisions that are for our own good? Because we know our body better than anyone else.
Yeah, exactly.
I just don't get it. All right, so
Yeah.
let's talk more. Um, so what? Let's see. Do you want to talk about your final interview?
Yeah. So, well, first I'll say right after all of that conflict, and I spoke too soon before, that conflict I had with the zone leaders happened right actually at this point,
Oh,
right
so you're
before
like
I got sick.
sick.
I think it was right before I got sick.
Okay.
And so that conflict happened. Then I was sick and felt useless as a missionary, like wasn't getting a lot of work
Oh,
done. And then I got transferred out of that area and was no longer a leader. And so it felt like a
Okay.
punishment. It felt like
Like
I
God
wasn't
was
able to
punishing you.
work. I caused problems because I totally called out those zone leader. Well, the story's a bit more complicated than I shared. It got elevated to the assistants, and
Oh,
then I
okay.
called out the zone leaders for not just listening to us, like thinking they're better than, like, they have more right to
They have more
receive
authority than
revelation
you.
for the zone than we did because they have
Yeah.
the priesthood. And so I
Mm,
did absolutely have some righteous anger that I called them out with. And so it felt like I was being punished for not staying in my lane and not being a submissive woman and
yeah,
being
that's
an outspoken
frustrating.
woman with boundaries. And
And like
so,
that's such a mental mind game, right? That
yeah,
you're thinking this, and yet you are just being an awesome woman trying to, advocate for other people and for
yeah,
yourself.
yeah. And I mean, I, not to sound boastful, but I was an excellent missionary. I was
Yeah,
very friendly. I was very gifted at getting people to engage. I was a very good teacher. I spoke Spanish well. I was a good leader. And so I felt like I should not be getting all of this hate. I am being a good
yeah,
missionary. I am doing a good job. I'm giving everything I have to God. What is the
yeah.
deal?
Yeah, you're sacrificing your whole 18 months to go do this. You're paying for your mission,
Yep.
right? Your
Yep.
brother's struggling at home, and so you buckle down more to be even a better missionary.
Mhm.
And I can't imagine the amount of obedience that you were like, nope, we're going to do this. We got to do this, right?
Yeah.
And I'm sure, I don't know. I'm just spouting out stuff, but there's certain times where you're just like, oh, I'm just tired. I just need to go sit down over here. Or, right,
Mhm.
like if you're on a bus, you're supposed to just contact everybody on that bus. And there
Yeah.
were times towards the end of my mission that I was just like, I am so tired. I just need to sit here until the next stop.
Yeah.
And that's hard. And I don't know, like, do you get in trouble from God for doing that kind of stuff? But like you're just so tired. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I can't imagine how you felt that, oh, John, gosh, this frustrates me that you felt these feelings because nobody should feel these feelings. Like
Yeah.
you were already doing so much more than some missionaries, and yet you felt like you got punished. This is
Yeah.
horrible.
Yeah. And I remember just agonizing in my prayers to God, telling him how unfair it was,
Did
like,
you cry?
oh yeah. I would just, a lot of my nightly prayers from then on were crying into my pillow, begging God for help.
So then
And
did you become depressed because of this?
um yes, but not yet. When
Oh,
I got
oh,
home from my
okay.
mission, I definitely whoo down into the depression hole.
Oh no.
Um but at that point, I was like, I'm still a missionary. I'm still doing God's work. I still have the spirit. Like,
Yeah,
and ultimately, the answer I got from God when I would say these prayers of like, it's not fair that all of these people think that I'm not a good missionary when I am. Like, I'm a good missionary.
yeah.
And the answer I got was just that, Jesus went through the same thing, he was the son of
Mm,
God and people called him the devil. And so you're a representative of Jesus Christ, so that's what you have to go through. And I was like,
wow.
"Okay, that's what I'll do."
Wow. That's a lot of weight on your
Yeah.
shoulders.
Yeah, for sure. I was very, very stressed. I
Yeah,
was
to say
very
the
much like
least.
about ready to crack, but just barely holding on at all times for like the last 3 months of my mission.
Oh. All right. So final interview. Let's talk
My
about that.
final interview. So I'll preface 2 weeks before I finish my mission, I was talking with my companion. It was my first American companion, so I was speaking in English, and for the first
Probably
time in a
felt
long
weird,
time,
right?
and I told her how I was feeling about my mission president and how sad I was about it because we had been so close, and to feel like we were so close, now he was ignoring my phone calls. He like
Mm,
when I was asking for help, he wouldn't help, like, and I felt like I said before that I'd been punished. So she's like, just ask him, like, write him an email. And so I wrote him an email where I told him that I was feeling like he was disappointed in me, um, and that I really wanted to know why, because I believed in his authority as my mission president. And I said, even though I only have 2 weeks left, if you see something that I'm doing wrong that I could correct, even though I only have 2 weeks left, I want to correct that. I want to be the best missionary possible. So
mm,
please tell me what I have done or what I need to change. Um, and so I sent that email 2 weeks
mhm.
before the final interview, but he didn't respond to the email. And
Weird.
yeah, he had responded to my email, to some of my previous emails. He doesn't respond every week to
Right.
people, he typically just reads. But I was like, weird. I guess maybe he just wants to answer me in person. That was a
Mm,
very heartfelt email.
mhm.
Maybe he, especially because I knew I had, like, I couldn't think of anything wrong I had done. Like, I knew I had been
Right.
obedient. I
Yeah.
knew I had been kind. I knew I had been hardworking. So I'm like, okay, whatever it is, can't be that bad.
Right. Yeah.
And
Jeez.
so I was like, maybe he just wants to say it in person because he really does care about me. I was wrong.
Oh no. All right.
He,
What happened?
in the interview, he starts to, and now I thought it was going to be an interview where he asks questions and I give answers because that's what
Mhm.
an interview implies. But
Right.
he started into a really long lecture about, I think it was his brother-in-law who had served a mission
Okay.
but was not very obedient and not very hardworking. And it filled him with regret for years after he got home from his mission. He said for 30 years he regretted that he didn't give the Lord his all while he was a missionary. And then finally he realized that's something I can repent of. So he repented, and that shame and that regret was washed away. And so then, after sharing that story, he said, Sister, I don't want you to have that type of regret. So I invite you to repent before going home. And I had already started crying when he was sharing the story because it felt very much like, is he saying that I'm lazy? Is he saying I was disobedient? So I had
Right.
already started crying. And so he extended that invitation and in missionary style then said, will you accept that invitation? And so
Yeah.
I was like, yeah, like,
Like, what else are
sure.
you supposed to say,
And I'm
right?
like sobbing and saying, okay, yeah, I'll repent.
Well, he
And
took you by
then
surprise, obviously, and so you're just like, "Wait, what? Are you really saying
exactly.
this to
I
me?"
thought he was gonna be apologizing, like, I'm so sorry you thought that. Like, you're amazing, sister. That's what I was expecting. That's not what
That's
I
what
got.
you were hoping for sure, because
Yeah.
you knew the quality of work that you had already done up
Yeah.
until now, and you were
Yeah.
leaving in 2 weeks, so obviously well, I guess you were leaving was it
I was
2
leaving in
weeks?
just under a week.
Under a week.
Yeah, I was about to
Wow.
leave.
So what kind of guilt, did that give you?
Well, in that moment, I didn't feel guilt. I
Okay.
felt
Sad?
it was, yeah, it was just like this mix of what it really was. I'll get real personal. So I
Oh,
did not have a good relationship with my father.
okay.
That's something I've been working on recently, and it's improving. And I'm really proud of my dad now and who he's working on becoming. But as a kid, he was very emotionally abusive.
Mm,
And um, so that was really hard. And I didn't have any male role models in my life.
mhm.
And so when my mission president, when I had that connection with him, it was the most amazing thing ever. I was like, I have a father figure. I have someone I can look up to.
Mhm.
And we were so close that we even talked about like, after the mission, make sure to like come
Wow.
visit anytime, like I was
Yeah.
really had a lot of expectations for having him be a part of my life
Yeah.
for the rest of my life. I really, really loved him. And when he said those words, I realized that I lost that possibility. I was like,
Mhm.
nope, I'm never going to see this man when
Yeah.
I go home ever again.
It
I
was
don't
like a
want to see
slap
him.
to your face,
Exactly.
right?
And so
Yeah.
it was that loss of, I guess I won't have a father figure then. And so I was just devastated.
Yeah, I can
And
yeah. Thanks for sharing that. That's really hard.
yeah, and so then he asked, "So do you have any questions?" I'm sobbing, right? And I say, Yeah, I got a question.
Oh.
What did I do?" Like, I didn't actually ask it like that. I think I said, "Yes, I have a question about my email that I sent 2 weeks ago. I want to know what you think I need to do better." And so instead of answering my question, this is so
Oh,
ridiculous.
no.
He literally starts to prophesy about my
Oh,
future husband.
wait,
Like
what?
describing him, talking about him like literal like prophecy type voodoo magic. I was like, "Okay, like that doesn't help
That's
me at all
weird.
answer my question." It was so weird. It was super weird.
That's okay.
And
Wow.
so, yeah. And then I pulled myself together. I left the interview. My companion was waiting for me, and I was like, I need to go to the bathroom. I went to the bathroom, and she walked in behind me. I turned around and just started sobbing on her shoulder. I just
Aw.
cried and cried and cried, and she's like, "What happened?" And I was like, "He told me to repent." And she's like, "For what? You're like the
Oh,
first
geez.
missionary I know." And I was like, "I don't know. He wouldn't tell me." And so that's what started my depression cycle
Okay.
was that interaction.
Yeah, because I'm sure you're just replaying that in your head over and over and over again.
Yeah,
And you're just like, okay, God, what possibly could I repent for? Right?
yeah.
You're probably
But
just,
just to show you my level of obedience, to show
hmm
you I was sincere when I said I was a good missionary, that night when I knelt down to pray, I realized, well, I made a commitment to my priesthood leader. I told him I would repent. And so I need to sit here and think of something to repent for. And so I
wow.
sat on the or I knelt on the ground until after lights out, and that was the first time I had ever like broken that rule because I was like, nope, I committed I would do this tonight. I have to think of something. So finally
Wow.
I thought, oh yeah, I've had some really unchristlike feelings about my mission president. I can repent for that. So I repented for that and went to bed with a clean conscience. I
Yeah.
had a really good relationship with God. And so I knew he was proud of me. Like I had
Yeah.
asked him and he had told me, obviously I don't believe that anymore, but at the time I was like
Yeah.
there's nothing like my conscience was clean. I was like I haven't done anything wrong. And
Right.
so I went to bed and I said, God knows that I was a good missionary, even if
hmm
my mission president doesn't. And I just had to accept that. And that was a
That's
really
hard.
hard thing to accept. But
Yeah.
then I went home and oh man, when I saw my sister, the one cool thing that did actually, my mission president
Uh-huh.
did do a good thing for me was, so I served my mission at the same time as my twin sister, and I was really, really close with her.
Uh-huh.
But the way that her mission worked is missionaries got sent home 3 days different than when missionaries got sent home in my mission. And so
Oh.
um, I asked if I could. Well, actually, I didn't ask. It was actually a surprise that her mission
Oh.
president called my mission president and said, "Would you be willing to let Hermana Young, that was my maiden name, because I'm a direct descendant of Brigham Young. So, will
Whoa,
you
that's a
let
big
Herm
deal.
yeah, it's a pretty big deal. Will you let Hermana Young stay 3 days extra, and then I will fly my Hermana Young, because her name was also Hermana
Yeah.
Young. She was gonna there's no direct flights from Uruguay where she was serving to the US. So she was going to have to get a layover somewhere. And so he's like, I can give a layover in Santiago and then they can fly home together. And so
What?
that was really,
That's
really
so
cool.
cool.
I extended 3 days. So all my friends who I came with went home, and then I got to go back to my old area, my mission president's area, and get
Mm.
to see some of my old friends. So that was a good end note, I guess. I
Because
did
you
get
got to
to,
say goodbye to some people,
yeah, I
right?
got to say goodbye to some of my favorite people from that area. So that was really cool. And then when I saw my sister in the airport, I
So you had
hugged
no
her.
idea.
No, so he it was a surprise, but he had told me already. Like he didn't it wasn't something I had asked for. He was just like, "Hey, this is what we're doing. Do you want to extend your mission for 3 days?" And I was like, "Heck yeah."
That's so
Um
awesome.
so yeah, that was really really cool. But I remember after I hugged her, my English wasn't very good, I guess, because this sentence doesn't really make sense, but I just said, I suffered. I suffered. And she was like, I
Oh,
suffered too. And we're like, that's not good English. And then we just hugged it out again and then just spent the whole plane ride just talking about how much we suffered and
that's crazy.
empathizing with each
Yeah.
other.
How awesome though that you got to share that immediately with your sister.
Yeah.
I assume you
Yeah.
guys are super close,
Oh
right?
yeah, for sure. We're
Oh,
super close.
that's beautiful. I'm sorry that you suffered. Like, it is
That's
such
okay.
a tragedy to me to have so many people talk about how much they suffered on their mission. Like,
Yeah.
nobody should suffer on their mission. Like,
Yeah.
you're there to help Christ, right?
Mhm.
So why is there so much suffering? It just doesn't even make sense to me. Like,
Yeah.
so many
No.
things could be prevented or helped out in so many ways. I mean, you should have gone to the doctors. You should have,
Yeah.
so many things.
I should have been given enough food.
Right? Yeah. Like, I feel like there were some days or weeks that it was like we were just barely making ends meet to just have a piece of bread
Oh yeah.
for
I mean,
dinner or
we would
whatever.
just eat rice and tuna. Like
Mm,
that's what we could afford. And
that's
that's yeah.
crazy.
But it was good to definitely be done. I was
Yeah.
ready to be done.
I can imagine. Um, so you came home, and then what happened?
So I
Because this
came
is this is where it gets even better, guys. Are you
yeah.
ready for this?
So I came home and I slept in for the first time and it was
Oh, wasn't
amazing.
that like the best thing?
It was the best thing ever. And I was actually my parents had made my room into something else. So I'm like sharing a bed with my twin.
Uh,
And, that was really, really great to be back with her. But I like was still that crazy fatigue like wasn't going away. I had assumed I'm just going to sleep as much as my body needs for the first couple weeks. And I slept
yeah.
like 20 hours a day. Like
Whoa.
I slept so much.
Was your family
And
like concerned?
oh yeah, my family was really concerned. My sister was really concerned. She, bless her, was so sweet. I'm going to cry again. She would
Oh,
like bring me food in bed. She would help me to the bathroom because I was so weak and she never complained. She was really, really great.
oh, she
Um,
loves you.
yeah, she does. And so finally I got to the doctor and the next little bit is kind of a long story of getting diagnosed with what was wrong with me. So I'm
Mhm.
just going to really condense it.
Okay.
Basically, when I first got sick, and that we found this out with a blood test that because I had the markers of mono, so that I had mono. And so like, oh, a
Mm.
sister I lived with at the time since coming back from her mission because she got sick at the same time as me. But
Oh.
she thankfully got to go home after because that's naturally where she was ending her mission. And so I was
Okay.
friends with her and she told me, "Oh yeah, like when I got home, I figured out what was wrong with me. I had mono." And I was like, "Oh,
Wow.
well my blood work shows that I had mono at some point, so that's probably when I got mono."
And that's probably why you were so tired all the time.
Exactly. And so my doctor told me, he's like, when you have mono, you're supposed to be on bed rest for at least 4 weeks. Like, it is a
What?
very serious virus. And if you don't rest for 4 weeks, you can prolong your symptoms for up to a year. And so I was like, oh,
Whoa.
great. So I have a year of being this tired all the time. And so I went forward. I was, I had bed rest for 3 months where I was sleeping 20 hours a day and like,
Oh my
never getting
gosh.
out of bed. But then BYU semester started. And so I went to BYU.
But you were
Stuff.
still technically sick,
Oh
right?
yeah, I
Like
was still
tired.
sick and
Jeez.
I couldn't walk upstairs. Like stairs were really difficult for me. And
Okay.
so I would have to like walk really slowly to the life science building and then take the elevator up to campus level and then walk really slowly to all my classes. I was often late to classes because I couldn't walk quickly enough and I
Oh
had to get a job
man.
that was like sitting down a lot.
Yeah.
And so it was really hard, but I was like, it's just for a year. Like, oh well. But then a year came and went, and I was still just as fatigued,
Oh
just
my
as sick. And
gosh.
so I was like, better go to the doctor again. And so it actually took a few doctors until I finally got diagnosed with a condition that's called myalgic encephalomyelitis,
Wow, that is a mouthful.
which is a mouthful. People used to call it chronic fatigue syndrome. So that's what
Oh,
people typically call it. But doctors are kind of moving away from that name because people kind of get I guess there's a stigma that like, oh, you're just tired all the time when it's actually like a serious, like my mitochondria don't work right. Like it's a serious thing
jeez.
in my cells. Like,
Yeah.
and it also comes with a lot of other symptoms like joint pain, muscle pain, headaches,
Oh,
brain fog, chronic sore throat. My throat is just always sore.
oh my
Um,
gosh, that's awful.
insomnia.
Oh,
Let
so
me
you're
think, is
not
there
getting the
anything
sleep
else?
that you need to like
Yeah.
help your body heal and
Um,
jeez.
also, depression is a
Oh,
common side
yeah.
effect of being
Gosh.
disabled because
Yeah.
it's absolutely a chronic illness that leaves you disabled. And so finally I got diagnosed with that and I was like, okay, that's my life. There's no cure and there's
Ah,
no treatment. So
this is
at least no
crazy.
FDA approved treatment at this time.
Really? So you
And
can't take specific medications to help
well,
cure
I
or
am currently on a program that is not FDA approved, but
oh,
I'm
okay.
gonna try it anyway. And I've actually found some improvement of my
Oh,
symptoms.
that's
I'm
great.
still really tired all the time, but I'm able to do more before I crash. And so that's another huge symptom of
Mm,
this condition is if you overwork yourself, and overworking yourself can literally be vacuuming. Like it does
wow.
not take much to overdo it for me. You fall into what's called post exertional malaise, which basically is you get extra fatigued and you get flu like symptoms for a few days. And so
Wow.
it puts me in bed. If I ever have a crash or ever go into post exertional malaise, I am in bed. And so
Jeez. So you
it,
feel a little useless too,
yep,
right?
feel useless, just like I I was a very independent person. I was a very athletic person. I ran every day. I was a runner. I loved working
Oh,
out and you
jeez.
can't work out with this. You
Well,
have
you
to kind
can't
of
even vacuum, let alone
yeah,
do anything exertion.
exactly. And so
Jeez.
because my mitochondria don't work right, they're not producing enough energy for my body. And so I have to conserve energy as much as I can. So I got a one-story house. I have a service dog that helps
That's
me.
good.
He is very cute too. And
What's
my
his name?
husband helps me. I bought a house with my sister because my
Awesome.
sister helps to take care of my child and used
Oh,
to help me clean back before I started this treatment. Now I'm feeling totally able to keep my house
oh,
clean, which
nice.
is great because for a long time I couldn't and needed her to clean my house for me.
Jeez, that's so hard.
And yeah, it was really, really hard.
And
And
like to go
so,
from being so independent to ask for help, how
yeah,
hard was that?
super, super hard.
Mm,
Took me a long time to get comfortable. It was actually something I hid my disability. Like I told
really?
when I started dating, I told my now husband. which
Mhm.
is a whole nother story that I'm married to a man as a lesbian. Um,
We'll go into that another time
yeah.
because I'm super
Um,
interested in this.
yeah. And so I told him, but other than him and my immediate family, I didn't tell anyone that I was sick. Like, I was embarrassed. I was embarrassed to be
Yeah.
disabled
Well, you
because,
didn't want to have like a nameplate, right? That says, "Hey, I'm disabled," right?
yeah,
You just wanted to be as most normal as you could. Is that
yeah.
right?
And
Yeah.
I also felt like people would assume that because it was absolutely the fault of my mission. The doctor was like, yeah. Oh, because I forgot to mention, mono is actually one of the triggers to myalgic encephalomyelitis. It is a
Wow.
virus that is so hefty it can trigger this chronic illness. And so he was like, yeah, that's why it's so serious that we tell people with mono you have to rest for 4 weeks because your body needs every ounce of energy it has to fight off that disease. If you're expending energy when you have that virus, it's gonna put your body in a bad
Jeez.
place. And so that's what happened to me. I worked 16-hour days for 3 months with mono. And so my body had no hope of ever recovering. It was like, nope,
Oh,
we're going to be in a chronic state of fatigue now. So,
jeez. So how's your everyday life now? Do you feel, I mean, you're on this newer treatment. You
yeah,
said like it's improving, but like are you still tired all the time?
yes. So I've kind
Oh.
of gotten used to just always feeling tired. Um,
Which has
and
gotta just put you down, which is why
yeah,
depression happens,
yeah, it
right?
did for a long time. It was something that was really, really hard for me to accept. And I felt like I went through my acceptance process as a believing Mormon.
Okay.
Um, and then I had to go through it again once I left the church
Oh,
because as a
yeah.
believing member, I was like, God sent me on a
Mhm.
mission and God knew it was going to happen. And so there's some purpose. I'm supposed to
Jeez.
learn something. I'm supposed to help someone. Like God
Yeah.
wanted this for me. And so that's what I believed. And I also believed this broken body that I have will only be broken until I die. And then it will be resurrected perfect. And I will be able
Right.
to run and not be weary and walk and not faint.
Because
And
that's our promise, right?
mhm,
If you stay obedient, you'll be resurrected, and
exactly.
then all will be good. You'll never have to have this illness again.
Yeah, and on top of that, I was given multiple priesthood blessings that
Oh,
promised that I would be healed of this. And so I was always kind of like hopeful that like I could get healed. Like I anytime I found a new suggestion online for like, "Oh, have you tried this?" Because I joined support groups, online
yeah.
support groups for people with my condition. So anytime I would try something new, I'd always be like, "This is going to be the fulfillment of that promised blessing. I'm finally going to get healed." And then it wouldn't
Mm,
work, and then I would be disappointed. So it's like I was in kind of this state of limbo of not really accepting that I was
jeez.
disabled um,
Yeah.
until I left the church and was like, "Oh, I'm disabled." And so I like made a coming out post on Facebook being like,
Oh,
I'm disabled. I'm not going to hide this about me anymore
yeah.
because
Because
yes, it
it's
happened
you.
from my mission and no, I wasn't disobedient because that's what people have said. Like if you get injured or hurt on your mission, it's because you were disobedient. You were probably
Jeez.
in the
Yeah.
wrong place. You probably weren't doing something you were
Yeah.
supposed to be doing. So
That's exactly what they say. It's so horrible.
yeah. And also, I had to a big step in me accepting that I was disabled was getting a wheelchair because
Mm,
before I would just say, like, if family wanted to go to the zoo or to the mall, I'd be like, that's too much walking. I can't do it. So I'll just
yeah.
stay home. But just to realize, like, I can still go out and have fun. I'm just going to sit in a damn wheelchair and get over myself. Like, I
Yeah.
was so embarrassed. But then I got the wheelchair and then I got a service dog, and so it's like I slowly accepted, like, this is my life.
Good.
I'm disabled. It's okay. I can still have a fun, fulfilling life, as a
Yeah.
disabled person.
And you have a toddler, which is
We
like
do.
that in of itself is tiring.
Oh my gosh, I know.
But yeah, but how much more fulfilled is your life with your baby in there?
Oh my gosh, so much more. She's the reason for everything I do, honestly. She is being a mother is the best thing that happened to me, even though I was
Good.
terrified to be a mom while I
Yeah,
was pregnant because of my disability. I was like, "I
yeah.
can't do this. This was very foolish of me to get pregnant. Like, what was I thinking?"
Mm. Oh
But then the
man,
second I saw her, it was
love
it
at
was
first sight.
yeah, I've never experienced
Oh,
love like I love my daughter. And so she makes my life worth living, and
so
she
beautiful.
she's perfect and I love her. I'm not gonna cry again.
I know you're like making me tear up, to be honest. Oh, that's so beautiful. Yeah, kids are such a blessing in so many ways that we just can't even fathom without it until you're actually put in that situation.
Yeah, for
So
sure.
definitely good. Well, I'm glad that things are getting better, and definitely hope that they just continue to go uphill. So, yeah,
Yeah.
is there anything else that you want to share about your mission or experiences after anything?
Um, yeah, I think that honestly, I I'm so grateful for the opportunity to share, because my mission was very traumatic, and so I pushed down for a long time any memories, any thoughts about I just wouldn't think about it. And so to be able to think
Mhm.
about it and remember, oh, I did have good times. Like I loved my first daughter and my second daughter.
Mhm.
I met people I loved. I experienced a new culture that I loved.
Yeah.
I had so much fun and laughter for the first part of my mission and a lot of trauma bonding in the second half of my mission. So, I mean, I definitely I feel like even though if I could go back in time and not serve, I absolutely would not.
Yeah.
I wish I could tell my 18-year-old self not to go. Um, but I still can recognize there was a lot of good that came from it. Now that I'm like 5, 6 years removed from it and I've
Yeah.
healed the trauma.
Yeah. I mean, I think that's important, right? Is to just be able to be like, okay, were some good, but would I do it again?
No.
Hell no. And I think that's a question that we need to ask every single person that we interview, because I'm interested in, would you go back and do it again? Everything that you know now, right?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I'm curious as to how many people would say yes, how many people would say no.
Yeah, no, and I because I think that that is something that people really need to understand is that the narrative is pushed in the church that these will be the best 2 years of your life.
Yeah.
The narrative is pushed that you will never regret the decision to serve a mission. I was told that so many times.
Oh
You will
yeah.
never regret your decision, and I was
Yep.
like, "Psh, I regret it every single day."
Right.
Like,
Yeah.
every single day that my
Me
toddler
too.
asked me to run and play with her, and
Oh,
I have to say no. Every time she asks me to pick her up, she comes up to me and says, "Up," and I can't hold her for very long anymore because she's so big and heavy.
yeah. Shoot.
I regret it every single day. I regret going on a mission. So I just want people who are deciding to go on a mission to realize it is not for everyone. And when people say you'll never regret it, they don't know what they're talking about. There
Yeah.
are so many people who regret it. And so I just it just scares me to think that people are still going. Like whenever I have a friend that goes on a mission, I'm always like, please advocate for your health. Like, please go to the doctor if you get sick. Like,
Yeah. Because they don't
please,
tell you
please,
that.
please.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's just so interesting. I have friends on Facebook whose their kids are starting to go on missions, and
Oh,
I'm like,
yeah.
if I could just like sit them down and talk to them for 30 minutes, and I don't want to ever be like, if this is what you really want to do, like do it. But I want them to have all the information, and that's the whole
Yeah,
reason for this podcast. You need all the
exactly.
information before you say yes to this. That is
Yeah,
what informed consent is, and that's
exactly.
what we hope as your hosts, that we can portray this to everybody. We just, yeah, there's not enough information out there.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think that it's my personal belief because I try to share only true things, but this is I'm letting you know, disclaimer, this is a personal opinion that the church doesn't tell people the truth about missions on purpose.
I
I
agree.
think that if people knew if there were real statistics, like there's a 30% chance of you getting sexually assaulted. There's this much chance of you getting abused by your companion. There's this much chance that you will get an illness. Like, if people
Yeah.
had that information, I think a lot less people would decide to go.
Hmm.
Because that's something I didn't even address, the multiple sexual assaults that happen on my mission. It's like, you are a target. If you go foreign speaking, everyone sees that you're American and everyone
And a
thinks
woman.
you have money because you're American and
Yes.
rich, and you will be the target for robberies. You will be the target for sexual assaults and harassment. You will be the target for just hate. I had so many people scream awful things to me in the streets just because I was American. And that's something I did not know was going to happen to
Yeah.
me, you know?
Yeah. Not only are you rejected by people left and right, it's like you have this hate coming from some of these people, and you're just like, what did I do to deserve this? Like, I'm
Yeah.
trying to be the best person that I can. I'm a missionary for Christ. Like, why is this happening, right? And then they
Mhm.
tell you, right, if this is part of being a missionary and you suffer.
Yeah.
Like
The
while you're there, but you
opposition.
don't know about it until you're there.
Mhm.
So, yeah, it's like trial by fire, and
Oh, yeah.
sometimes the fire is just too intense. It
Yeah.
shouldn't be.
I agree.
Oh, crazy. So, thanks for sharing your mission. This has been very very awesome. In my opinion, I thank you for sharing this because more people need to know this information. Absolutely. So thank you very much.
Yes, thank you for being
Um,
a great host.
this is all new to me, so I hope I was okay. Let us know. Let me know in the comments, and email us at mormonimpossible@gmail.com. And yeah, we look forward to our next episode. It will be all about what did we talk about? Oh yeah, about money and
Yeah.
how expensive missions are. So stay tuned for that, and we hope to we look forward to seeing you guys next week.
Yeah. Okay. Thanks.
Bye.
Bye.